Okay, stand by.
Hello, and welcome to our annual education celebration. Sadly, we can't celebrate together in person again this year, but we're thrilled that so many new people are tuning in tonight. I'm Sally Benley, the founder and CEO of School on Wheels, and I'm pleased to be here sharing the stage once again with our host, Sarah Jones of WTHR. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Sally. Welcome and thank you all for joining us. I'm honored to be here with you again as we celebrate the obstacles School on Wheels, their partners, and the children and families they serve overcame with the support of the community. We have so many collective achievements to share with you tonight, but we also have a lot of work ahead. Throughout our event, we'll have lots of opportunities for you to take action so that School on Wheels can continue to change lives with education.
Did you know without academic intervention in a normal school year, children impacted by homelessness are 8 to 9 times more likely to be held back a grade? The good news is that prior to the pandemic, 98% of School on Wheels students were promoted to the next grade. So we know that our innovative programming that we have honed over the last 19 years really works. However, recent studies have found that COVID related out of school time may exacerbate existing achievement gaps by 15 to 20%. And homeless students could experience a learning loss of more than a year, which is up to 2 times greater than their housed peers. This is what our students are facing on top of the trauma of events that led to their homelessness and the uncertainty that comes with not knowing where they may be sleeping next month, next week, or even tomorrow night. We've all been experiencing a pandemic together, and we know how hard it's been for everyone. Some people have been isolated and alone. Others have had to work from home with their children at their sides, and the stress of being teachers, parents, and good employees all at the same time. Some have had to juggle childcare and the absence of in person instruction because they didn't have the option to work from home. Some have had to quit their jobs because there were no other options. And many people over the last year lost their businesses and their jobs. None of these things have been easy for any of us. They've come with tough decisions and lots of stress. But imagine the added stress for families experiencing homelessness who are sharing a single room or living in their car while still trying to connect to school. These are challenges that many of us can't even imagine, but they are stories we hear from our families every day. Our team at School on Wheels has been working alongside our students, their families, and our partners, and we have navigated these new obstacles together.
I was so happy when I heard School on Wheels was continuing its work through this pandemic, which is so important to the students. And tonight, we'll introduce you to School on Wheels partners Julian Center and Cold Spring School, who have worked through incredible obstacles this year to support children and families in our community. You'll meet our special guest, J.R. Sendadi, one of School on Wheels' dedicated volunteers. And you'll hear from Gina Woodward, the homeless education specialist at Indiana Department of Education, as we celebrate what our community has accomplished this past year and learn more about how we need to come together to address what remains ahead.
During the earliest days of the pandemic, when so much was unknown, we contacted our partners and families and delivered meals and technology to those in need. As a trusted source, we connected families to critical resources to ensure that they felt supported and that their basic needs were being met. Throughout the summer and into the fall semester, our staff traveled around the city and met our students and families in motel parking lots, on front steps of buildings, and in green spaces. As the days got colder, we tutored virtually and we opened learning pods in locations where we could come together in person and spread out safely. As schools have returned to in person instruction, our staff are still there, spending more and more time at our partner sites, reconnecting with our students, and uncovering the critical issues that we couldn't explore in a virtual experience. There is so much we need to do to help our students recover from the learning loss of the past year. And truthfully, we can't do it alone. So, before we dig into our program and introduce our partners at the Julian Center, as they share more about the challenges of the past year, I want to make sure I take the time to thank our presenting sponsor, BMO Harris Bank. This event would not be possible without their generosity. They've presented our education celebration for the past decade and have helped us create critical visibility for our programs. We also want to give special thanks to our VAP sponsor, One America, our award sponsor, Royal United Mortgage, as well as all of our scholar and volunteer sponsors, who you can find in our online event program. Please help us show gratitude by honoring them with your patronage because their support keeps our programs and this community thriving. Thank you.
School on Wheels works in partnership with 17 different sites throughout Indianapolis to provide their programs. Julian Center is just one of the 8 shelters that School on Wheels brings tutoring and academic support programs to each week. While every shelter is a bit different, this chat with Julian Center staff gives us a glimpse into the challenges of keeping families safe, combating isolation, and keeping programs going over the past year.
Imagine living in a room with your whole family. That was the experience of our families during COVID. Typically, we have kids in here every night for evening programming, and kids go to school every day. That they didn't really have access to go anywhere else because of safety concerns. So they were in their room with their whole family the whole time.
They might not have that kind of one-on-one time that they need. The families might be big, parents might have to work.
There was a lot of changes with daycares, and some daycares had to close and other daycares didn't provide e-learning support. So it was very difficult for them to work during that period of time. Partnerships have been vital. They've kind of been our kids' connection to the outside world when they couldn't go outside.
That's one thing that our partners have brought to our kids is consistency.
With School on Wheels, it's more than tutoring, it's mentorship, being able to have some normalcy and a normal time.
With our partnership with Julian Center, we've been able to go virtual via Zoom tutoring sessions. And in that time, we've seen 32 kids this school year, which I think is somewhere around 440 sessions.
So our job was to get them here. And when they got here, that Brittany would have someone ready to work with them.
A lot of things have changed, and our children noticed that it had changed, but we didn't want it to make it seem like it was a big change for them. Especially with School on Wheels, they have missed their tutors. Their tutors were not only just their tutors, that was somebody that they really got to connect with over time. And when they were able to see them virtually, you can just see their faces light up.
Initially, a lot of our program was me actually going to the kids' rooms and providing supplies and things for them to be able to do. As things open up a little bit more, we were able to expand it to where we were having a couple of kids at the same time come in.
We might have this family come Mondays and Wednesdays, and this other family come Tuesdays and Thursdays.
We would have folders that they would have their passcodes in and everything so that we could just log them on. And if they needed help, we would go around to different stations and be able to support them.
The overall shift to virtual e-learning has been really hard.
The accessibility of teachers sometimes, like they're busy the whole day.
A lot of the teachers that I ask questions about students, they're like, I haven't really gotten a chance to know the student very well this year. So I think overall that's been a really big challenge, not only for us as a tutoring organization, but for the teachers as well. I think a lot of our kids are really going to be behind more so than they were before the pandemic.
You know, it's not uncommon for our kids to have gaps in their learning already, which is one of the reasons that I really appreciate School on Wheels being willing to come in and to do summer programming. That extra support that they get over the summer has been very important for our kids to be able to get back on track and to be at grade level.
Wow, our partners are truly amazing, aren't they, Sarah?
It's so awesome to see so much dedication from the partners and the tutors at School on Wheels working together.
Yeah, Julian Center has been critical to keeping students connected. We've been able to tutor 32 students at that site alone this year and work with their families to set and meet important educational goals. Thanks to staff members like Candace and Mimi at all of our partner sites, we have had help connecting to families even when we couldn't be physically with them. There have been incredible challenges this year, but also some really amazing outcomes of our work. We continue to build stronger relationships with the families of the children who are enrolled in our programs. And we see the dedication of parents and grandparents to their children's academic success. This year, the families in our program are on track to exceed the number of educational goals they met last year. Goals like preparing the youngest learners for pre K and enrolling them in quality preschool programs, supporting teens when applying for summer programs that have scholarship opportunities, staying on track with our 21st century scholar requirements, and so much more.
That's amazing to hear you guys surpass the goals of last year. And it takes money to implement tutoring and School on Wheels wraparound services for the whole family, both in person and remotely, for all of the children School on Wheels serves. And that's why we're all here tonight. We're going to help level the academic playing field for children impacted by homelessness. You can give throughout the night. Text EC 2021 to 243725 and receive a one-click login to join our fundraising efforts. Just remember to give when you're inspired, and please know your dollars directly support School on Wheels programs. During the next 15 hours, our goal is to raise $15,000, and the clock starts now.
$15,000 can do so much right now as we work collaboratively with our community to address the learning loss caused by this pandemic and meet the needs that are greater than ever before. Over the past few years, expansion into schools has helped School on Wheels connect with so many more students and families who need additional academic support. Of the nearly 5,000 children in Marion County who are unhoused each year, only 15% of them access the resources that shelters provide. The rest of these children are considered the hidden homeless. They're living doubled up with family and friends, in motels, or in their cars. Cold Spring School is just one of 9 Indianapolis schools served by School on Wheels, and we're going to introduce you to them now.
I spent a lot of time thinking back to those first days, those first weeks, those first months when we did not know, tip of the iceberg of what we know now. Those first few weeks when we just didn't know, oh, are we going to be out of school for like 2 weeks here as kind of things die down, or are we going to go back? What's going to happen? There was just so much unknown. Little did we know at that point in time, it would be close to 7 months before we would see them in person again. You know, even set aside the academic challenges that came with trying to teach and learn, I think the big thing for our teachers was also just trying to create that sense of community.
Teachers are exhausted in August because they're not only teaching content, but they're teaching procedures. They're building that community. They're building that sense of family with their classroom. They're learning personalities. Think how many times teachers have had to do that this year.
It impacted everyone across the board, but it would not be justice to say that it didn't impact others, though, disproportionately. And I think specifically our families who are experiencing homelessness, identifying students who may be experiencing homelessness is something that's a high priority for us. That process is difficult every year. It's extremely difficult whenever you're not in community. Some of those identifications come from just a simple conversation. When you can see something's just not right with the student and you can kind of tell in their eyes something's going on that you want to investigate a little further.
Another way that we usually identify kids a lot is if the secretary, Mrs. Powers, gets a change of address form. When kids aren't taking the bus, we don't know that. Not being able to have community nights or family nights, those events did so much to build the trust relationship between families and school. So if parents don't have a relationship with a lot of the administrators or even their teacher as much, they're very afraid to admit maybe the situations that they're in.
Amy stepped up in ways that I'll be forever grateful for, and I know our families will be forever grateful for.
School on Wheels had a donation of iPads, so families that did not have technology, you know, we were driving all over, dropping those off. If they didn't get the packet from IPS, you know, I would go and pick those up and drop those off. Many of us at School on Wheels spent time in parking lots, on porches, at parks, anywhere we could see kids face to face. A lot of times I was the first one who knew if the electricity had been turned off and then go to the school and relay that information. So yeah, my role completely changed in the way that I communicated with the families.
I hope that through this experience, more people understand the challenges that we as educators face on a day in and day out basis. Homelessness has been an issue in our country for some time now, and I think we're only going to see that go up. But I hope that people will see the impact that education has had and the impact that organizations like School on Wheels can have to combat that, and not just allow kids to get fed or to get shelter or meals. Those things are extremely important, but how to thrive educationally.
I think this year has helped everyone realize the critical role schools play in our community and the crucial services they offer to so many students. We have staff members just like Amy who have been working tirelessly with our school partners to keep students and families connected. We are grateful for the trust we've built with our families, but know that because of the transient nature of homelessness, they may have to move on to another school. Ensuring our families are empowered to access the resources and support that schools offer is as critical to student success as the time we spend each day helping students improve their grade level skills and build their confidence. Our staff does not do this work alone. Before the pandemic, we were supported by over 400 volunteers each year. While we've had some volunteers provide virtual tutoring for us, hundreds more have had to wait until it's safe to return in person. One of our dedicated volunteers joins us tonight to share his insights on the most important connections that volunteer tutors help create with students of all ages.
Diversity Committee member and captain of Team Agaste, School on Wheels 2020 Tutoring Team of the Year, J.R. Sandadi, is a huge part of our team. He commits his time to community through his work with several national and local organizations and uses his dedication to selfless service to inspire others, like his wife, their 2 children, and many of his friends and fellow volunteers from his work with Hindu Swayam Sevak Sangh. Hello, JR.
Thank you, Sarah, for that warm welcome. Thank you, Sally, for having me here.
Thanks for joining us tonight. We're excited to hear a little bit more about your volunteer experience, and thank you for sharing it with our audience.
Thanks, JR. And you've been working with School on Wheels for about 4 years. What has been the most meaningful and rewarding part of that?
Yeah, so before I get to actually answer that question, I want to actually give a big shout out to one of our founding members of Team Agastya. Her name is Sushmita Singh. She is our first tutor 7 years ago. This journey started with School on Wheels. Our partnership started with School on Wheels 7 years ago with her planting that seed of actually giving it back to the community. As you said, I volunteer for nationally an organization called Hindu Swayam Sevak Sangh. Locally here, we are partnered with Family Promise, an organization focused on ending homelessness. Basically, we host homeless families as one of the congregations, a Hindu faith congregation. So during one of those hosting sessions, she and I talked about, okay, how are these kids getting taught? So then that kind of planted the seed of actually reaching out to the School on Wheels. We looked out for organizations, reached out to the School on Wheels, and then partnership evolved. It started with one, now we have a team of 14. What has been the most meaningful for me personally has been developing these relationships with our tutors. This one-on-one developing relationship has been probably the most meaningful and fulfilling experience. There are lots of experiences in the last 3 years. Few of them stand out most. Probably one would be during one of our tutoring sessions. I walked into the training hall and all the kids were lined up. And the kid who was assigned to me, I've been tutoring for maybe probably 4 weeks. The fifth week, they keeps running to me and says, "Oh, you're back." That just basically kind of, I just stood there, so like, okay. Then I realized sometimes in this child's life, tutors might be the only constant. Another example I give you is I was subbing for my daughter, and that day when I went there, the child, my daughter developed a very strong bond with that child. That child was actually very sad. My daughter didn't show up. I showed up. Then I kind of told her, that's okay. I'm a good tutor too. I'm not that bad as my daughter. But sometimes some of these kids develop a strong bond with our tutors. And that's those type of the moments you take back as a human being. It's probably is what most gratifying and fulfilling experience, I would say, for the last 3 years. So I look forward to, even though it's an hour a week, we all four of us in our family, as well as all our tutors, look forward to it. So,
And that strong bond between tutors and students, I know from talking to tutors and students that they say that knowing that someone tells them that they believe in them, that they can do it and they achieve it is so important for them continuing their education. And we've learned so much over the past year about the importance of maintaining connections. It's been so hard for our students not to see their tutors each week, and we've heard from the same from our volunteers. You and your children have tutored virtually this year. How has that been? How has that been? How has it been impacting the tutors and the students and the relationship they have to be virtual this year?
Yeah. So as most of us know, last year has been a challenging year for all of us. So the learning is no exception there. So especially learning in a virtual environment, it's new to the tutors as well as it's new to the students. Probably the students are a lot more easy and adapting rather than the tutors. So what I missed the most was the personal connection, because when you are in front of a child, you can probably gauge their mood. You can actually sense what type of setting they are in, and then based on that you can cultivate, and based on that you can actually customize and modify your tutoring session. What we felt, some of our tutors felt, was that connection is probably not there in the virtual setting. But that being said, if not for the technology advancements, this whole year would have been lost for these children. Just imagine a year of no tutoring, a year of their learning ability would have been lost without the technology advancements we made. And obviously, the School on Wheels has been a vocal supporter of getting all these devices in front of the kids, so that they themselves, they do not have one variable taken away from that, which is they do not have a device, they do not have an internet connection. None of those things are actually an excuse for them not to learn. We felt, I think, School on Wheels done a fabulous job of getting all those out there, and our ability to contribute in a small way, even in a virtual environment. I felt it was that connection is continues to be there. The constant we being there, irrespective of whether be in person or in virtual environment, we felt that's probably is the most, I would say, connection. That connection continues to be there.
Well, and JR, thank you so much for sharing your story about how you've connected to our students and your family has connected to our students. You have done a great job not only engaging your family in this experience, but also your entire team at Gastia. You've brought on a lot of tutors that are dedicated and just as passionate as you. So we've got people joining us at home tonight that don't know a lot about School on Wheels, or maybe they've thought about volunteering in the community and they just don't know where to start. So what advice do you have for people tuning in about maybe why they should sign up to tutor for us in the fall when school is back in session, and hopefully we have that opportunity for that really close in-person connection?
The small amount of time you spend, like an hour a week you spend with lighting the fire of the curiosity in children, it has a long lasting impact. That's what I tell them. I tell them, even though you might think you're spending only a small portion of the time, it's going to be a lot more gratifying, a lot more joy. It'll give you a lot more joy. What I'll tell you is, give others all that is alive in us. Okay, our interest, our understandings, our knowledge, our humor, everything in us that is good. In doing so, we enhance the sense of aliveness in others, while enhancing our own. When we give, we get a heightened vitality of what it means to be human. So that's what I would like to request all the people who have tuned in. This is a wonderful organization. For every given opportunity, please sign up to be a volunteer tutor. There are various opportunities in which you can get involved. Please sign up, and it'll enhance your well-being. It will enhance your happiness. It'll increase. So that's what I would tell Sally. So I've been a big proponent of School on Wheels at every given occasion, a social setting, in every setting. So that continues to be the case.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing your story. Obviously, people at home can feel the passion that comes from you. And thank you also for mentioning how impactful it is for the tutors. Because a lot of times I think when we volunteer, we think, who are we impacting? When we get great joy and we are impacting ourselves with our service. So thank you so much for all that you do and for letting everyone know about this is a mutual connection that we have.
Yeah, thank you, Sally. Thank you. It has been a great partnership, and we continue to do this for years to come together. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Sally, and you were just saying how the tutors walk away with something as well. And I know that anybody that's seen School on Wheels firsthand knows the impactful work you've done and instantly becomes a sporter like myself. And I know a lot of the kids that were tutored become tutors themselves.
That's right. It's the program just going full circle.
And education really just levels that playing field if we invest in our kids. And tonight, you've heard from School on Wheels shelter partners, an elementary school partner, and a volunteer tutor about the obstacles that the last year has presented. While tonight we're celebrating what School on Wheels students, families, and partners achieved by working together, it's also important to focus on the future. Things won't simply return to normal once the greatest threat of this pandemic passes. The stress, trauma, instability, and learning loss it leaves in its wake will take renewed community support to help all students, especially those who are homeless, get back on track. As we look to the future, here's Gina Woodward, homeless education specialist at the Indiana Department of Education.
When we are looking forward and we're trying to make plans for the 2021-22 school year and even beyond that, looking at learning loss and addressing those needs in an accelerated way is important for everyone. But with youth experiencing homelessness, it's even more important because if those young people have been out of school at all and you layer on the social and emotional issues that are impacting them along with that learning loss, there may be additional work to be done. The challenge that schools tend to face when they're working with families experiencing homelessness relates to the fact that I think in education, that is not necessarily a language that everyone speaks. The other issue that we are facing on a regular basis is the other issues that impacted students outside of school, job loss and parents' frustration and anxiety over trying to work with their students and keep them up and keep them engaged. It just is going to be a puzzle to put back together what individual students need. And the more concerns and challenges and hurdles that they had to overcome, the farther that distance is going to be to catch them up. We know that the educational outcomes for those youth are impacted at a greater rate than their peers. Data has shown us many, many times that students who are experiencing homelessness with a lack of a high school diploma, they're 5 times more likely to be homeless as adults. If we don't ensure that their educational needs are met, then we are setting them up to likely have these circumstances continue as adults. The biggest factor that I think plays a part in successful intervention is collaboration. We have incredible community partners that can assist in the whole family and the whole child intervention. We cannot expect young people to be engaged in education if they're not healthy, if they're not experiencing happiness, if they don't feel safe.
That's on all of us, I think, from our legislators down to our local officials, down to even community organizations, those educational organizations that are doing great work, like School on Wheels and others.
The nonprofit community specifically works really well together with providing resources to really uplift families that need some type of support, whether that be education, childcare.
We do have youth shelter. We do have School on Wheels. We have opportunities within the school setting for community partners to work together to help youth that are experiencing homelessness.
It's about all of us wrapping around our families to support them to the best of our ability.
The more that we can open our doors to one another, invite one another around the table for those conversations, plan together and learn from one another, the better our interventions will be and the better our outcomes will be for our community members and youth.
Sally, wow. You know, the impact that this pandemic has on education is huge. All schools are kind of going through a problem where I've seen more students are failing at a higher rate. And then you throw in homelessness and kids are normally at a disadvantage, but you guys are working to break that gap, to close that gap and level the playing field. Your work is amazing.
Well, thank you. I mean, as you have heard from so many people tonight, we have a long road ahead, and we can only meet the demands by working together. With your help, we can make sure that every child in our program gets critical academic support and meets tutors who will renew or spark their appreciation for education, build their confidence, and give them the tools that they need to succeed. Because education is the key to breaking the cycle of homelessness for our students and will pave a brighter future for all they are capable of achieving. That's why we're asking for your help once again to raise $15,000 in the next 15 hours.
And we can definitely do it. School on Wheels can't do this important work of helping children and families impacted by homelessness without your help. Text EC 2021 to 243725 and receive a one-click login to join our fundraising efforts. Thank you all for joining us online tonight to celebrate education and, most importantly, for supporting the kids and families School on Wheels serves. And thank you to all of our sponsors this evening, especially our presenting sponsor, BMO Harris Bank. Your dedication to education is amazing, and your support for our community is inspiring. Thanks again to our VIP sponsors, One America, our award sponsor, Royal United Mortgage, and all of our scholars and volunteer sponsors.
Behind every great event and every effective nonprofit are the people. If you are a volunteer tutor, member of the board of directors, advisory board, or spokes, diversity, development, or auction committees, thank you. I wish I could thank you in person. If you are new to School on Wheels and are looking for ways to stay connected and involved with us, visit us at indieschoolonwheels.org and follow us on social media. We can do so much together. Be sure to stay tuned into our fundraising efforts over the next 15 hours and look for an update tomorrow afternoon. We're hoping to blow past that $15,000 goal because we have a lot of work to do, and we know we can do it with your help. I want to thank Sarah Jones once again for joining us here tonight. I know how passionate you have felt with the stories you have done on our kids, and being with you has just been a terrific honor for me. And we thank you for all you do for School on Wheels.
I'm so honored to be here. You guys do amazing work for these kiddos, and seeing it, anybody wants to get behind it. So that's why I'm passionate, because the work you guys do is worth it and amazing.
Well, thank you. And thank you to everybody out there. Until we can meet again in person, be safe, be kind, and take care of each other. Have a great night.